as the junior member. That's true, the junior member, one of the junior members of the CGA Law Firm. I was nominated, perhaps designated, to provide brief comments and introduction to our speakers. And I've always been known for brevity, so that was an easy selection. It is with great honor and pleasure that I introduce Attorney Lawrence Young, who is the most senior shareholder in the active status of CGA Law Firm, and Jeffrey Rehmeyer, who is the managing partner of the CGA Law Firm, to make the formal presentation that I hope you all enjoy. Larry and Jeff.
Thank you, Judge. As you can imagine, it's terrific to have him around the office. And when he refers to himself as a junior member, we all laugh. Thank you all for having us join me today. It is my privilege and pleasure to stand before you as a member of the CGA Law Firm. Today, we're going to tell you a little bit about Jon, Countess, Gary Gilbert, and Pete Andrews on a personal level, as well as provide a glimpse as to how they enabled the firm to grow and to prosper for half a century. Here's a picture of Jon, Gary, and Pete, our big three, if you will, from our 40th anniversary. That decade has certainly flown by, but we are definitely having fun. On the next slide is a picture of what we consider the beginning. This is the joinder of the big three. In April 1967, 50 years ago this month, 4 important events occurred, all within a 2-week span. First, Jon Countess became a partner in the firm of Laux and Monroe. Second, Gary joined the firm. Third, Pete joined the firm too. And the fourth, Frank Countess was born. Now in CGA, we celebrate 3 of these 4 occurrences. But on the 4th occurrence, the jury's still out. Frankie knows of you. We've missed Jon the past few years, but his influence is evidenced at CGA every day. Jon was our Southern gentleman. He was meticulous, he was diligent, and here's how that happened. Jon grew up in the South in a one high school city. He was the co-valedictorian of his class. He was voted most likely to succeed, and he never got less than an A. In the early 1950s, Jon was one of the first 2 students accepted into NASA's internship program under Wernher von Braun's team of rocket scientists. Jon turned down an appointment to the U.S. Naval Academy to do this internship, and he spent a few years helping with rockets. Jon attended the University of Alabama, and then he attended Auburn University, graduating with a degree in mechanical engineering. And that engineering spirit was evident every day in how he worked. Jon took a job with the York Corporation under J. Gilbert Anderson, and then he decided to go to law school. So in our office, whenever we had a problem that required rocket science, Jon was our go-to guy. Gary, of the 3, was grown locally and a graduate of William Penn High School. Gary also attended Valparaiso University, and after he became a lawyer and became a partner, he was also given what we consider to be a unique and creative marketing plan. And here's how it went, because Gary did embrace it. Vic gave him some money. Vic told him to go out to some local establishments, buy a few drinks, and sure enough, the recipients of those drinks would often become clients thereafter. So Gary has and continues to be a marketing leader in anything. On a more serious note, Gary's involvement in the community and bar association has been exemplary. He's served on a number of boards, and over the years he's proven that he's masterful in business and business law matters. Gary has guided the firm, its clients, and the Stewart companies to success. Now, many times you'd call into the office and you couldn't find Gary, as he was often out surveying real estate. Since Jon and Pete could not win clients with the golf club, Gary took one for the team. Hopefully, you're recognizing the pattern here. Our founders were exemplary, civic-minded, and skilled individuals. Coincidentally, they all married very well, too. So, in addition to showing love to Frank, we also love Rosemary, Carolee, and Sandy. So thank you for being here. The trend continued with Pete Andrews. And here's this interesting fact. Pete was a U.S. Army captain for intelligence at the Pentagon. So during the Cold War, when others were having fun, Pete spent time protecting our country by doing, among many other tasks, the analysis of spy satellite imagery. On a personal note, Pete was the first attorney that I met at CGA and a direct influence in me going to law school. When I visited Pete at the office nearly 25 years ago and saw the now trademarked mustache and the picture of his Jaguar on the wall, I determined that law school was definitely the way to go. He has exhibited quiet leadership at the firm. And what is quiet leadership? Pete never talks too much, but he is always selective, insightful, and concise with his comments. Pete is the attorney that you want at your meetings. He gets things done without wasting time. Now, Larry Young, a junior member who's been with the firm for only 40 years, is going to continue to tell you more.
My mother always said I should remind myself of my thank yous. So the first is thank you for having us here. It's really wonderful to get to talk to you about CGA. The second thank you is to thank Jon, Gary, and Pete, along with Sam Laux, for giving me the opportunity to practice law with them, to learn from them, to be part of the York community. I would point out that, as you just found, that 2 of the 3 aren't from York. I'm not from York either. Although I joke and claim that York is not a totally closed community, I claim citizenship through my 2 children who were born here. But Gary, Pete, and Jon created a unique, the screen says collegiality, dedication, and community. Dedication to our craft, dedication to not just getting the right answer, but making sure that the client was served. But that only begins to tell the story. There are a lot of great lawyers in this room and in the community, and they get the right answer, and they serve their clients. But Jon, Pete, and Gary created a unique atmosphere of collegiality within the firm. Everybody's opinion was valued. Everybody was given an opportunity to succeed and to thrive. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And their dedication to the community, which again we'll discuss later, was amazing. CGA, Countess Gilbert Andrews as it was at one time known, and now CGA, has a great record of making sure that whatever is going on within our 4 walls, we are giving back to the community outside of those 4 walls. So, I joined them in the summer of 1975. I've been with them for 42 of the 50 years together, and it's been a real treat. I love where I work. I enjoy coming into work every day, even though some days it's frustrating, as work is. But I keep saying to myself, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I'm doing it with some tremendous people. The growth. The firm has grown amazingly over the years. Now, this is a picture of our ribbon-cutting ceremony at our current building at 135 North George. We started in one of the townhouses, 139 East Market Street, across from sort of the water company. And I can't remember exactly, but I think the building was on at least 15 different levels. You went up a couple steps here, down a couple steps there. Nothing was wired correctly. Nobody was near their secretary. Everything was sort of however you could fit people in. We finally started fitting people in closets to make sure that we had enough space. So we moved to 29 North Duke Street, the only building in the city of York that was actually built to be a law office. Jon, Pete, and Gary had a great vision of building something that would incorporate modern technology, modern design. The building still stands there today. We don't use it anymore because we outgrew it. We thought we'd be in that building forever. We honestly thought we'd be in the building forever. The basement was totally empty. We talked about putting in a racquetball court, a bowling alley. Within 2 years, we built out the basement, put offices in it, and simply continued to grow. We are now, as the photo shows, at 135 North George Street. We moved in 2004, renovated it. We now occupy in total the 3rd and 4th floors, most of the 1st floor, and our plan is to eventually, as we need more space, occupy the 2nd floor. The firm continues to grow, and it's one of the largest, if not the largest, in the county. One of the main features of what Jon, Pete, and Gary did was to promote from within and to trust the younger people to sort of teach them what needed to be done to turn the firm over. The firm's had 3 presidents. All of them became presidents while they were in their 40s. Jeff is still in his 40s. It's just the gray hair and what we've done to him doesn't show that. But first with Michael Bosted, then with Sharon Myers, and now with Jeff, the firm has looked to the younger people in the firm for its leadership. And the fact is that Jon, Pete, and Gary have been selfless, training us and teaching us the way to do it, and then turning it over so that we get the job done. Now, we're proud of the fact that we have supported women attorneys. As you can see from there, we have a third of the attorneys in the firm are women, 5 shareholders, and in fact, one of them, Sharon Myers, was our president for 17 years. To the best of my knowledge, the only female president of a major law firm in all of central Pennsylvania. And the only reason Sharon really stepped down, although we abused her over the 17-year period, was her daughter joined us, and she felt it would probably be inappropriate to be the president of the firm while her daughter was moving up through the ranks. So Sharon stepped aside, and Jeff became the president. But again, younger people learning what they've learned from Jon, Pete, and Gary, and then taking over. Our community involvement is amazing. Frankly, we support a number of local events and organizations. We counted, we're over on 100 boards and organizations in York and Adams County, the attorneys in our firm. Truly too numerous to mention. In terms of supporting local organizations, we have donated money in the recent past to Crispus Attucks, the Red Cross, Cultural Alliance, the York Symphony, the YWCA, Creative York, Parliament Arts Organization, the American Heart Association, the Belmont Theater, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We actually have something that our staff started, which is Jeans Day. We let ours twice a month. You can wear blue jeans on a Friday. We let the staff pick the charity. We let the staff pick what we're going to support that day, and everybody throws in money into the pot, and we collect money for various organizations that the staff feels are worthy of our support. This is a picture from the Heart Association. We are wearing red for the Heart Association. We've also had Countess get dunked in the dunk tank. You see it up there in the upper left-hand corner at Wingstock for Crispus Attucks. You also have in the bottom right, we've done Walk a Mile in her shoes for the YWCA. The fact is that CGA supports numerous programs, organizations, events, because we simply think it is critical to give back to the community. We also give back professionally. We are, I think, one of the leaders in pro bono efforts. We have had the following attorneys recognized by either the Pennsylvania Bar, the York Bar, or other organizations for volunteering their services. Frank Countess, Craig Charnetzka, Michelle Pokrivka, Brent Diefendorfer, Leanne Miller, and Evan Gable. We are very proud of the fact that every year CGA supports the York County Bar Foundation 100%. Every member of the firm either takes cases or writes a check so that the Bar Foundation is supported in its pro bono efforts.
Larry, if I could just interject, Larry's being modest as usual. Last year, Larry was recognized by the Pennsylvania Bar Association and the York County Bar Association with the Jeffrey A. Ernico Award. This honor is only given on a case-by-case basis at most once per year to one attorney in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for significant lifetime pro bono service. So it's almost like a lifetime achievement award, but he's still working hard every day. And it's another point to show that we have leaders that do so by example, and Larry is at the forefront of that.
Thank you. But I'll admit that if I've led, the firm has been more than willing to follow and has been extremely supportive. We've also had 3 presidents of the York County Bar Association, 2 presidents of the York County Bar Foundation. We've been home at one time or another to 3 lawyers who then went on to take the bench. And if you count Judge Euler, a 4th. So we've had quite a history of having talented lawyers either leaving the firm to go to the bench or retiring from the bench to come to the firm. We've been very blessed. The last slide, we counted. We have 1,614 years of total legal experience. And I'm supposed to make a joke and say that most of these are Gary and Pete, but that's not what happened. They're both over 50-year members of the Bar Association. It's been a treat to practice law with them. It's been a treat to learn from them. I look forward to many more years being together. I'm sorry that Jon isn't with us anymore, but Jon also, my recollection of Jon is 2 things. Being from the South, I went to law school in the South. Jon never learned to say property. It was property. And he referred to the Civil War as the War of Northern Aggression. Those are the two things that I'll remember about John as long as I'm alive. So I think at this point we're supposed to turn the program back over to Jeff and Gary and Pete.
Yes, thank you, Larry. Now we have a quick treat for you. We're going to ask a couple of questions of our two founders who are here today. So I would ask Pete and Gary to join me at the podium. As they walk up, please understand that ordinarily the firm would charge over $300 an hour for their advice. Or you would have to buy them a drink in the room next door, but today their orders are free. Pete, I'll start with you. What major changes have you seen in the legal industry?
Well, there are a couple, but I think the major one is that there are an awful lot more younger lawyers around than there used to be. The second change is, more thoughtfully, one of technology. In our first meetings, when the three of us got together, we actually did get together in April of '67. We were trying to figure out our overhead in the firm and what to do about it. And it was significant that one of us pulled out a slide rule and started making calculations. It wasn't me. And that reflected back on our different backgrounds. John was an engineer before he became a lawyer. Gary was a criminal defense attorney, having all the fun down there. And I was an English major out of intelligence in the Pentagon. So it was a very different group, which I think worked to our advantage. But in the technology side, we were one of the first firms in town to have what was the best automatic typewriter at the time. It had a paper tape that ran through and punched holes in it. And you could do a whole document on there and then run that thing again, and it would do exactly the same document every time. So it was easy to make changes, secretaries loved it, and it lasted about 5 years. Then along comes the fax machine, which we thought was wonderful, until we discovered that our clients would fax back to us and call us 5 minutes later wanting to know why we hadn't responded. And then you get into email and all of this other stuff, which is very expensive. But the technology side of the law has really changed the practice of law a lot. And for the better, but it's expensive. That's enough.
Thank you, Pete. Gary, what advice do you have for business leaders who are working to grow their businesses today?
Remember, they told you I was the golfer, okay? Actually, one of the best pieces of advice I ever had in my life was the very first day I worked as a lawyer for a guy by the name of Victor Dalla. He handed me some papers and told me to go down to the courthouse and file them. And before I left the office, he said, get to know the people behind the counter. He said, if you're gonna be successful in this business, you have to know these people, and they have to like you. They will help you. How does that translate to you and your business and what you want to do? Get to know your customers, your employees, your service providers. Get to know them on a relationship basis. Don't just send them flyers, emails, that type of thing. The people you need to make your business work, you go out and meet them, talk to them face to face, get a relationship with them. I don't care if you're a bigger business or a smaller business. That will make you successful. I got that advice in the very first day I worked. Also, it pays to work with people who have the same basic core values and principles you have. Was blessed to have, Pete and John. All those years, we all thought the same way. One of the nicest things about CGA is as we've grown, all of the younger people are picking up those same principles. They like them as much as we did. The place is no different now than when we started it. That's one of the most satisfying things. It just it pays to work with good people. Keep that in mind. If you have a partner that doesn't have your same principles and values, maybe you ought to be looking for another partner.
Thanks, Gary. One last question for Pete. With so many lawyers in the firm, all of whom are well-trained to argue, no offense to any of my colleagues here today, what made CGA stick together as well?
I'm not sure I totally know the answer to that, but I know parts of it. Part of it is your staff. Your staff, and I think we have more staff than we have lawyers. If you get good people, give them a challenge, let them accomplish things, and be proud of what they accomplish, they'll want to do more for you and do it well. The second part of it is something that you might find surprising. My daughter Meg has an office in the firm just down the hall from where the shareholders meet. She asked me one day, wasn't that a shareholders meeting at noon? I said, yes, it was. And she said, but I heard laughter. Humor, as in anything else, is a very important part. And we spend time with our associates and with our staff. We have social events with them 2-3 times a year. We make sure that they understand that they're part of the team and a very important part of the team. Reference has been made to me being somewhat quieter than some of the other lawyers in the firm. I have as a guiding principle something that I read a long time ago. I think it sounds like Churchill, but it goes something like this. Sometimes it's better to remain silent and be thought stupid than open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Thank you, Pete and Gary, for everything. Thanks to all the guests and friends of the firm that came here today, and thanks to all of you Rotarians for allowing us to tell you some more about our firm and our founders.
No, you can also take a couple questions if you'd like.
If anybody has any questions, we have a lot of people here to answer them. Neighbor disputes, businesses that need form, go ahead.
How were the order of the initials of the firm decided?
That's a good one.
Fairly simple. It's fairly simple. How this all came about was that John's wife Rosemary and my wife Carol Lee were friends when they were growing up. I had been out working, even though John was older than me. He was an engineer first, and then came and went to law school, got married, and things like that. So John started with Sam Lowndes and had been working for them. He knew me through two ways. One was we double dated a little bit because I'd started dating Carol Lee and had met them. The other was that I did some trial work for their firm, and in those days they didn't do any trial work, so I did all the domestic relations work and the trial work for them, because that's what Vic and I did. So we got, I was at the point where we were starting to have our first child, and in my old life that was not conducive to long-term marriages because everybody I knew was on their third or fourth wife. We decided that we would get together and do something. His partner, Sam Lox's brother-in-law, who was the Monroe in that firm, had a brain aneurysm and had not been able to work, and they had a lot of work to do. So we decided that we would get together and form this firm. John knew Pete from law school, and Pete was getting out of the service. I had never met Pete, but I knew John well enough that John thought he was sharp. That was okay with me. So when we got together, that's the way it was. John was there first, I was there next, and Pete was there next.